everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a gripping tale that has echoed through millennia, the unforgettable story of Job. Now, close your eyes and picture this. In a heartbeat, everything changes. Wealth, family, health, all snatched away. How would you respond? Your faith, your spirit, would it stand firm? That's the challenge Job faced, and his story isn't just ancient history. It's a mirror reflecting the storms each of us navigates. So let's unfold this timeless narrative, a testament to endurance, faith, and the profound depths of God's wisdom. Ever wondered about the real meaning of suffering? What if everything you knew about life changed in an instant? That's the predicament Job found himself in. But his story is more than just suffering. It's a journey of unwavering faith amidst life's most challenging moments. Imagine a world without pain, without sorrow, where challenges never rise. That might sound like a dream, right? But here's the truth. Life without suffering doesn't exist. Each of us will face hardships at some point. But it's how we navigate these challenges that truly defines us. Picture a prosperous man named Job, blessed with wealth, a loving family, and a life seemingly devoid of major problems. However, his world was about to turn upside down in ways he could never have imagined. One day, Job's world shattered. Raiders stole his cattle and donkeys. Fire consumed his sheep. Enemies took his camels, and a sudden wind collapsed the house where his children were feasting, killing them all. Job's life savings were gone. His family was gone. But how did this happen? Well, earlier, behind the scenes, a cosmic conversation was taking place. The Lord was hanging out with the angels, and suddenly Satan showed up. He claimed that Job was only religious because God had blessed him. So Satan proposed a challenge. He said to God, "Hey God, take away his health, his kids, his money, and watch him curse you." God accepted this proposal, but set boundaries, promising Satan wouldn't harm Job's life. Why did God allow this test? To show Satan and all the angels that Job was genuinely devoted to God, not just because of his blessings. This sets the stage for one of the most intense faith tests in history. Now, after losing everything, Job wasn't alone. He had his wife and friends for support. But even his wife couldn't bear the pain. She told Job to forget about God and curse God and die. Can you imagine the turmoil in Job's heart? He loved God and didn't want to turn his back on him. In his pain, Job decided to pray and seek God directly. He asked God for a chance to defend himself and explain why he had suffered so much. He wanted answers. He felt he deserved them. So, he waited for God's reply, ready to express his confusion and pain. But God didn't answer right away. Instead, God chose to stay silent, leaving Job to grapple with his questions and emotions alone. This period of waiting and uncertainty was a significant part of Job's journey. It pushed him to dig deeper into his faith, testing its strength and resilience. After this, Job's friends arrived, each offering their condolences. Eliphaz began by asking Job, "Why do you complain so much? Your life has been great. You've got lots of stuff. Are you gonna curse God? Why not just take it all in stride?" Bildad added, "You must have done something wrong to deserve this. Think about it. You don't get bad stuff just for no reason. If you admit what you did, there's still a chance for you to turn things around." Zophar jumped into, saying, "Why should God bother with you? You know what you did. Admit it, and I'll tell God to cut your punishment short." These words were supposed to help Job, but instead they just made things worse. Job defended himself against their accusations. He swore that he was innocent, blaming no one else for his troubles. He admitted that he couldn't understand what was happening, but he refused to quit on his belief in God. Then something strange happened. Elihu, a young guy, stepped into the conversation. He pointed out that the older guys hadn't really solved anything, and he didn't think he could either. But he noticed that Job seemed angry and misunderstood God. Elihu suggested that God often does mysterious things that humans can't always grasp. He encouraged Job to think about how tiny humans are compared to God's vast power. Just as Elihu finished speaking, a massive storm suddenly erupted outside, shaking Job to his core. In the midst of the chaos, God spoke to Job in a loud voice, asking him a series of questions that made him realize how little he truly knew about the mysteries of the universe. God showed Job how vast and complex creation is, from the sky full of stars to the oceans teeming with creatures. He highlighted how human knowledge is limited and challenged Job to consider how much more there is to learn and understand. God further emphasized that He alone is responsible for creating and sustaining all living beings and questioned whether Job could comprehend the immense power and wisdom it takes to do so. To illustrate the scale of creation, God drew Job's attention to the Pleiades and Orion, pointing out that these constellations are part of a much larger, awe-inspiring expanse that humans can't fully fathom. Through these examples, God wasn't trying to lecture Job. He wanted Job to experience a humbling realization of his own limitations and the boundless nature of divine wisdom and creativity. As God continued speaking, the tone shifted. He addressed Job's accusations about having been tested by Satan and stated that it was he who allowed this, questioning whether Job still stood by his claims of innocence. Then God made a shocking revelation. He mentioned that Job's wife had suggested cursing God and dying, prompting Job to question whether God had considered her in his plan. God acknowledged that she had indeed spoken in such a manner, but also affirmed that Job had remained steadfast in his commitment to God. With that, God reassured Job that he would double all his previous blessings and restore his family, proving once again that he was in control. Job, overwhelmed by the magnitude of God's wisdom and power, realized the extent of his own ignorance. He admitted his mistakes in understanding and humbly repented. He acknowledged that he had not perceived things correctly, and promised to speak and act with care in the future, demonstrating his newfound respect and understanding. Touched by Job's humility and repentance, God blessed him abundantly, restoring his wealth, giving him even more than before, and granting him 7 more sons and 3 daughters, who grew up to become the most beautiful women in the land. After enduring his trials, Job lived another 140 years, witnessing for generations of descendants. In the end, his life spanned over 1,000 years, symbolizing longevity and fulfillment. The story of Job doesn't just end there. It leaves us with some profound lessons that resonate through the ages. Firstly, it highlights the reality of suffering. It shows that life is not always easy and that even the most righteous can face severe trials. But amidst suffering, Job's faith shone brightly. He refused to compromise his beliefs, even when tempted by his wife and friends. Secondly, the story underscores the importance of patience. Job waited for his restoration, showing remarkable patience and trust in God's timing. This teaches us to exercise patience in our own adversities, knowing that God is working according to His plan. Thirdly, the story emphasizes the value of humility. Job initially complained and questioned God's actions. However, he learned to humble himself before God's wisdom and power, recognizing his own limitations. This reminds us that true humility leads to growth and understanding. Lastly, the story reveals the abundance of God's mercy. Despite Job's trials, God showed great mercy, restoring his blessings and providing for him abundantly. This assures us that God's mercy and compassion are limitless. In conclusion, the story of Job is a timeless masterpiece that delves into the depths of human suffering and faith. It reminds us that life is not without its challenges, but also assures us that God is with us through the storms of life. As we reflect on Job's journey, let us draw strength from his unwavering faith, learn from his mistakes, and trust in God's perfect plan for our lives. May we remember that in times of suffering, patience, humility, and trust in God's mercy will guide us towards restoration and peace. We'd love to hear your thoughts. How has the story of Job impacted you? Share your comments below. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more faith-filled stories. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, may God bless you and guide you on your journey of faith.